Welcome to the Home Business Podcast with Richard Captain Henderson, publisher of Home Business Magazine, and Sherilyn Colleen, managing editor. This how-to show helps you successfully operate your home-based business.
Greetings and welcome to the Home Business Podcast. I'm Richard Captain Henderson, your skipper at Home Business TV.
And I'm Sherilyn Colleen, your co-host.
Let's secure, foresee, and get underway. For home business owners, public relations can be downright confusing because it operates differently than other marketing tactics.
You know that you want PR, you understand the potential value of PR for your business, but you're unsure how to go about it.
Or maybe you have tried PR and it didn't work for you. So what is a home biz owner to do?
Joining us today is PR and marketing communications veteran Jennifer Fortney. She gives us a short refresher on PR, how it works, why it works, mistakes to avoid, and how it can work for you.
Jennifer will also share her #1 marketing success secret. So greetings, Jennifer Fortney. Welcome to the Home Business Podcast. Say hello to our podcast audience.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on our show.
Thank you. So where are you connecting in from today?
The great city of Chicago.
Outstanding.
Great. Jennifer, let's get to know you a little bit better. Please share a little bit of your background and journey into PR.
Sure. I actually started off as a vocal music major and ended up in journalism. And I really liked sort of the combination of stage work and being a performer and how it translated into journalism. And I decided not to go into news, but my professors really pushed me as a great writer to go ahead and pursue PR. So I stayed in the School of Journalism and got a PR degree, basically business communications, but PR and integrated marketing, and started my career from there. Went into sports marketing and radio broadcast marketing. I wrote broadcast news for a while, and then ended up thinking, okay, this PR thing, I need to fill out my resume a little bit. And I ended up getting a job in Chicago, worked for a large agency, corporate Fortune 500 companies, milk, craft, that sort of thing. And then I moved to a boutique where I was working on companies like Jim Beam one minute and then a startup the next. And it was kind of fun. And ultimately went into business for myself and really focused on small businesses and startups because they have great stories to tell. And you don't have to recreate the wheel. You know, sometimes with Fortune 500 big companies, you have a box and you have to craft a story around it. And this way, as the journalist inside of me is excited to tell these fresh stories.
Well, like many home-based entrepreneurs, you've wound through a lot of trails then to get where you've done some different things to get where you're at today. But isn't it PR kind of like singing? you're like singing the story of so other ways you're still kind of connected with tying music into public relations.
Oh, absolutely. That whole idea of storytelling, from whether it's theater and music to what I do now, really is consistent in my life. And the idea that everybody has a really great story, and how do you pull it out of them, and how do you make it interesting and newsworthy? Absolutely.
Yeah, you got a great story. So, why don't we get started with talking about some minefields to sidestep? What is the biggest mistake that small business owners often make in using PR marketing?
They do not take a step back to really look at their story to understand whether it's actually going to be of interest to other people. Oftentimes what they feel is their story is not powerful enough to attract the attention of, let's say, media outlets or bloggers, or, if you're an accountant working from home, maybe guest blogging opportunities and that sort of thing.
It's kind of like everybody thinks they're famous.
Right? Absolutely. And so what we really focus on is pulling that story out. Sometimes they want to focus on the benefits and features, and they say, oh, well, yeah, you got all these features. I'm like, that's great. But what is the why? Why did you develop the product or the service? why is it going to change lives? How is it going to change lives? And why it might make a difference in the industry, or, set a new trend across industries. So you want to look broader, like take a step outside of your little bubble that you're in the weeds all day long. Take a step out of it, take a breather, and really look at your product, service, your company as your customers would.
So everybody has a good story to tell. I mean, you can find a good story with people. You got to make sure they get reoriented on what's important and, the benefits they can offer the audience that you're trying to reach by getting tangled up in all the features of thinking you've got this wonderful story. So,
right. I mean, here's a perfect example. I had somebody sitting in my SCORE. Well, I think it was my first SCORE PR workshop that I taught here in Chicago. And she came in with this tray. It was a demo, was sort of the first round of her product development to help people eat safer in the car. Right. And that was sort of, I've got kids in the back seat and, here's this tray. It would keep the food. You don't have to pick up the food and drinks from spilling and all of that good stuff. And when she sent me the press release, it was very feature oriented. And what I said to her was, well, why? Why is this going to make a difference? And we found this great research online about how many car accidents are actually caused every year by people eating in the car or distracted driving. So we tied that story, her product in that story, into those statistics. And she ended up getting a deal with QVC. So
everybody, she has a good story to tell. You have to repackage it so you tie into the, what the needs are of the clients that you're trying to reach. Well, some great points. Before moving on to our next topic, I'll highlight this show's sponsor, Safety Technologies. Start a home-based business marketing non-lethal self-defense products. Work with Safety Technology, the industry leader for 29 years. Sell through shows, home parties, swap markets, auction sites, and your own e-commerce website. For more information, visit www.helpdefendpeople.com or our podcast website for more information on sponsors.
Now, we've been amazed at the number of business owners who think they understand what PR is, but really don't. So, Jennifer, the big question for many business owners is, what exactly is PR, public relations, and why is it such a mystery?
So PR in its traditional form was created to help a company communicate its business or its products and services through the media, understanding that the media is really full of influencers, right? You have people who've written on, let's say, food or business for 20, 25 years. They are perceived as an expert. So if you can work in your messaging or get them interested in a story for their paper or their online outlet, that people will really look at that and say, wow, if this person that I trust and I perceive as an expert is talking about this company, maybe I should check it out. And that's really ultimately what has been the benefit of public relations for.
You got to tie it into something that's newsworthy, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And
absolutely.
Story in with that.
Oh, sure. I mean, it could be a local business in a local angle, which local media love. You could be setting an entire trend in a new industry, which could go, to broader mass media. But either way, you really want to circle in on what your audience is, right? First of all, and first and foremost, and then how do you communicate? Where are they, and what kind of stories do they want to tell? So when we look at PR today, it's really about people say, oh, it's relating to your public. Well, that's great. But what we really focus on is getting influencers to talk about our companies, our products, our services, our clients.
So, the advantage there is no matter what your business is, there's always a good story. There's a good hook. There's good influencers that could potentially be interested in it. You just need to know how to, use PR to connect in with them.
Yeah, and let's be honest, I mean, PR, it probably is not going to work for everyone, but there are different avenues in which you can achieve that, right? So let's say you're service-based, like myself, or an accountant or a lawyer who works from home, and you have some expert advice you can share. There are a lot of publications out there just looking for articles. That's how I met Sherilyn, actually. And to be able to provide that valuable content to your audience and be of service to them, can be a great PR, what we would call a great PR opportunity. So it's not just a feature on your business. The evening news is not going to come out and cover your little home-based accountancy.
They're not going to cover Home Business Magazine. Come on.
But think about home business is really expansive. I mean, you have a lot of startups and small businesses that start at home. Mm-hmm. And they grow. I had a client years ago that grew into $1 million company out of their basement, a home-based business, into a big warehouse due to PR and how we made the connection with their story.
From basement to worldpreneur. Well, so, we understand, a little bit better about, what PR is. So let's get a little bit more into the weeds. The next big question is, just exactly how does PR work?
PR does something that no other marketing avenue does. It builds credibility, instant credibility. So if you think for a minute, when you look at a media outlet and you read something on a product or a new company or a new startup or a new app, let's say, and you get excited because you think, wow, I have a need and this might resolve that need. So I'm going to actually go to the website, but you're learning about it through the actual media story, right? Or the outlet that you saw it on, or maybe you have a blogger who mentioned it and said, hey, I love this. This is like the best thing ever. Or even somebody who mentions it, a friend who mentions it on social media can influence you, right? So the realm of influence and the idea of an influencer has really grown. And it's more that word of mouth in some respects, but they're people that we trust or we perceive to trust, and they can build credibility, whether it's seeing it and then putting the logo on your website. That's why companies do it. They want to see that row of logos underneath or at the bottom of their website. That can be psychologically the last stone to throw in order to get somebody to buy, because they'll see, oh, wow, they've been in that magazine. Maybe I should buy it.
So it's safe to assume as businesses got more e-commerce centered and more on online marketing, that it's more important to get influencers or to get that credibility. That's grown in importance for public relations to tie into getting influencers and ways to build your credibility.
Right. Well, absolutely. And let's also think about it in terms of quality over quantity. I think a lot of small businesses make the mistake of saying, oh, I want to be in 100 media, but they may not generate the return you want. And there could be 5 media that will really generate the return that you want. So zeroing in on what I call the low-hanging fruit, that where your audience is, and specifically an outlet that's going to connect with that audience is going to benefit you far more than just the idea of having 100 media stories. So
that's a really good point to pull out for our listeners, particularly being home-based and smaller and, don't have unlimited resources. That, the modern era of PR is to focus on, not to have a broad shotgun approach, but to home in on, the low-hanging fruit, as you say, what's really pertinent to your market. And that can, in the long run, make your PR efforts a little bit easier, your workload easier, by just focusing on what's important.
Absolutely. And let's not forget about trade media. They're always looking for content, new businesses, new companies. If you fill in that niche, if you have a niche where there are 4 or 5 or even 2 publications, build the relationship with them, because that is going to pay massive dividends in the end, instead of you trying to spin your wheels getting in New York Times, which probably won't happen.
Jennifer, does PR use a universal approach, or are there different PR strategies for different types of home-based businesses?
Right, so we were talking before about guest blogging or writing contributing articles, right? That's really good for somebody who may be service industry based, right? So again, your lawyer, your accountant, anything that you really can just need a laptop and run a business for. But if you have a product that you're selling, it could be more mainstream. So let's take, for instance, maybe it's a product for babies. I'm working with a company called the Crawligator right now. And so our focus is really, again, looking at what is the low-hanging fruit. We always identify that right off the bat. And that is mommy bloggers. That's the kids or parenting magazines and parenting writers. So there are a lot of contributors out there who might be syndicated. So those are really our focus. And we take the top 25 and really zero in on them. For others, it might be an event. An event is a way to bring people in and get a story about your business. It's not always going to be a feature story on your business, but there are creative ways to get what you need to drive the traffic that you want to your website.
All right. Well, okay. Well, it's time to move forward with our PR. Do we just stick our toe in or jump right into the deep end of the pool? Jennifer, how would you advise busy home business owners to begin their foray into attracting media attention?
So make a plan. Just start a small strategy. List out all the things that you need to do. You need to define your story and make sure your messaging is consistent, not just in, let's say, your pitch to media or an article or blog post you write, but your website and your advertising. Make sure that everything is aligned, because what we've found over the years is that we can drive traffic to a website, but the sales are quite low. And that's because the website is not meeting the expectation of the customer based on how they learned about the company and what they're seeing on the website. Or maybe the website's just not telling the story itself of your company very clearly and drawing them in. And then after that, look at your audience. Right? Who do you want to attract to your business? What opportunities or outlets can you directly hit them and bring them in, right? And that would be your low-hanging fruit. Identify your top 25 media. Start there. And then if you get them done and you follow up in 1 month, then the next month you can tackle the next top 25 or the next 25. So it's really indigestible pieces. One of the things that I found that keeps people from doing PR on their own or DIY PR, and it's something I included in my book, my new book, is that they don't have the time. They get overwhelmed. They'll say, oh, there are 100 media outlets. I don't have time to do that. And I don't know how to, and they get crazy. Well, if you just divide it up and say, look, I don't have to do it all now, you'll actually be more successful.
So it kind of starts with a plan. Keep it simple. Target, the outlets that make the most sense to you, and just take baby steps, each day working PR. Don't make it overly complicated.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I always tell my clients, think of, Marketing Monday, right? Like whatever makes sense to you to really zero in and focus on and know that day you're going to dedicate to your marketing, right? Then do it. Make the time, put in the time, and the results will occur.
Jennifer, what do you believe to be the #1 secret to PR marketing success?
Telling your story. I've talked about it, mentioned it a few times here.
I think we heard that someplace before.
the consistency of it, right? I mean, if you can come up with a compelling story, and then you can tell it not just through your PR, but through your website, right? You want to draw in those sales. And your social media, what voice are you going to carry over to your social media and through advertising or however you do it? You want it to be consistent. You want to hit people's pain points, address the challenge and how you solve it, and make that emotional connection with people so that they will not just click on your website when they hear about it through PR, but then they'll buy once they hit your
The
website.
point you're bringing up here about telling that story and hitting those touch points, we heard that's become even more important with millennial audiences, younger audiences that are connecting in through social media.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is true. This has been the truth about marketing for decades.
Right.
But for millennial, younger audience, they want things that have more meaning even. I mean, they're interested in a company that might sell a product, but then maybe they give away some profits to a charity. They want to feel really good. So outside of just making that emotional connection and saying, my product, my company solves your problem, they now want you to go above and beyond, and they want to feel really good about that purchase.
Yeah, important points to think about. Well, Jennifer Fortney, this has been a great discussion on supercharging our public relations. Do you have any final points you would like to share with our podcast audience?
I would just say, don't be afraid, go for it. There are tools and resources out there to learn how to DIY PR. You can follow me on Twitter to learn more, and take the risk. You know, take the time to figure out what your story is. And I'm telling you, it will change your marketing. Overnight even can change your marketing. So just stick with it. It could take some time, but you'll find it.
Jump into the pool.
Jump in the pool.
Great. Jennifer Fortney, thank you for being such a great guest on the Home Business Podcast.
It is my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Thank you.
To learn more about Jennifer Fortney, public relations, and her company, Cascade Communications, please visit www.cascadecoms.com or our podcast website for more information on guests.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Home Business Podcast. Share your feedback with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and at our website, homebusinessmag.com.
Visit the website for information on advertising. Subscribe free to our newsletter. Please visit our sponsors. For more information, visit homebusinessmag.com or the Home Business Expo at homebusinessexpo.com.
I'm Richard Captain Henderson saying, anchors away.
And I'm Sherilyn Colleen. We'll talk with you soon. Until then,
make it a great home-based biz day.